Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners YouTube Live. My name's Brandon Drumm, Parker Thune, Spencer Forsythe on the board. This is powered by Riverwind Casino. I'm sorry, I almost forgot. Lots to talk about right here on this episode of the YouTube Live. Trouble in the wide receiver room. Obviously, we're going to talk about that. But spring has been positives galore on top of that, which has been very, very good if you're an Oklahoma fan. OU hoops, they're portaling like we've never seen them portal before. We're going to talk about that as well. And then we're also going to answer your questions, whether it be super chat or what have you. So before we do all of that, we always have to thank our sponsors. So Parker, take it away.
Yes, folks. First and foremost, a shout out to our presenting sponsor, Riverwind Casino, which has been the premier gaming destination in the metro for almost 2 decades. Of course, you have the nearly 3,000 electronic games, the table games, bars and dining options, as well as the best live music in the OKC metro area. It's no surprise that Riverwind is always a good time. Uh, this podcast also sponsored in part by King, which is the greatest team to ever clean and a proud partner of OU Athletics. King delivers spotless results from stadiums to any size business across the country. You can check them out at janiking.com for unbeatable commercial cleaning services. That's JANIKING.com. And finally, a word from Mando. If you're not familiar with Mando, get familiar because Mando's whole body deodorant is clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. You can get it in a variety of different forms, including the solid deodorant stick, as well as the spray deodorant, and many more. Choose from a variety of fresh scents like bourbon leather, clover woods, Mount Fuji, or Pro Sport. And Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers because you're going to get to try a little bit of everything. It comes with that solid stick deodorant, the cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping, as well as a special offer for our listeners. You're going to get $5 off a starter pack when you use our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack when you use code INSIDER at shopmando.com. SHOPMANDO.com. Please support our show. Tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando.
Yes, yes. Parker, where do we start? Do we start with the bad news or do we start with the good news?
Well, I think everybody is pretty aware at this point of what the bad news is. The bad news is there's a very good chance, a likelihood at this point, that you're going to open the season without Giovanni Gibson available. And that was the guy that had really emerged throughout the spring period. Well, and even before spring, we were hearing great things about Giovanni Gibson and the stuff he was doing in the winter workout sessions and just how athletic he was, how strong of an impression he was making throughout his first couple months as a Sooner. Then they hit the field for spring practice. He's balling out. He's emerging as John Mateer's top option. And then, boom, the injury bug bites. And boy, has it bitten hard over the last 8 months in the receiver room specifically. And, we ran it down on the last edition of the Under the Visor podcast, Brandon. 10 of Oklahoma's 13 scholarship receivers have been afflicted with injury at some point this spring. Not all of them are lasting injuries. Not all of them are long-term injuries. Giovanni Gibson right now is probably the guy that faces the lengthiest rehab for his specific diagnosis. But it has heightened the necessity of an addition at the wide receiver position in the transfer portal, Brandon. Whereas it felt a month ago like wide receiver was kind of a luxury for Oklahoma. You don't need to prioritize an addition there come the spring portal window. Now, with everything that you have witnessed and undergone at that position in terms of attrition, in terms of hard luck when it comes to injury, yep, you're definitely, without question, shopping for a wideout when that portal window opens next Wednesday.
That you are. I do we even want to go down that route? Like, do we want to talk about possibilities there.
Yeah, let's talk about
I
possibilities because
mean,
there's one right up the road that just hit the portal today from the University of
there
Central
is.
Oklahoma,
You're
Terrell
talking about
Davis.
Terrell Davis. Yes, 1,600 yards last year for UCO. Like he's a ridiculous talent. Like he's a top Division II wide receiver, and I know people see that they're like Division II. He's originally from Choctaw, I believe. Correct? Um,
Yep. Well, and just think about this. He went for 1,600 yards at the D2 level. If he's half as good at the D1 level, if he goes for 800 yards
he's one of the
at the
best
D1
receivers
level,
in the SEC at
he
that point. Yep.
shoot, he had more
College
than
football.
twice as many receiving yards as any Oklahoma wideout last season.
Hmm.
I don't think
Yeah, I don't.
Oklahoma has had a wide receiver hit 800 yards since, well, Drake Stoops might have,
He did. He had
but
900. He had almost 1,000 in 2022.
yeah, nobody's hit 1,000 since
23,
Marvin
excuse me.
Mims
Yep.
in 22. Marvin Mims in 22 was the last OU wideout to hit 1,000.
Yep. So here's the deal. You got Terrell Davis. As a Broncos fan, I love the name, even though it's spelled differently. But um, he's a really, really good talent. I actually reached out to him, waiting to hear back right before we got on the podcast. So there's that. But the other one is, you want to call it a retread, you can call it whatever you want. It's the new version of Trajan Bridges, and we don't know if that's even going to be allowed to go down just for obvious reasons, right? Like we don't know. What we can tell you is that Oklahoma is kicking the tires around there with that idea. Now there has to be some legalities checked, right? The administration has to prove it, right? Like all those steps. But I talked to a source today, and well, I talked to both sides actually today. Here's the deal. There's interest from both sides. Now, obviously, they can't do any real contact until April 16th. So it's kind of the roundabout way where you're just collecting data the way that you would do for any portal entry or somebody that you're interested in. The 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 thing that I was told is that, you know, both sides will be apparently both sides lawyering will be talking about the situation. You know, where is his process at? Obviously, it seems like everything's pretty clear at this point, right? I don't particularly know 100% where his issue was, but he's a changed kid, Parker. Like we talked about on the podcast, this kid, this was almost 5 years ago that all this went down. And he's grown up. He's proven that he can be a leader in the wide receiver room, no matter where you've gone. I know people in the UCA staff. They talk glowingly about him. I know people around Trajan. They talk glowingly about him. In Oklahoma, a source I talked to today said if there was a better time for a redemption story to take place, it would be under Brent Venables because he specializes in stuff like this because of the culture at Oklahoma. Now, I understand there'll be fans, Parker, that will say, why would you do that? Look what he allegedly did, right? Like all that type of stuff. And I get that. But I mean, like, would this not be one of the cooler second chance stories in like college football history?
It'd
Just it
be
really would
amazing.
be. It'd be
It'd be
amazing.
amazing. I mean, it would be a story that gets picked up not just locally, but nationally, right? Because
Yeah.
for one thing, it's been so long, right? Like the timeline for all of it to come full circle for Trajan Bridges would be incredible because of its sheer breadth.
Yep.
But I'll say this, Brandon, like the more and more I think about it, it's like, man, I don't know as much as I want it to happen, and I do want it to
Yeah.
happen. Man,
Me
I think
too.
it would be so cool. I think it would be so cool. And I genuinely do believe if you get Trajan Bridges in the mix, you get him in the system, you get him in Ben Arbuckle's offense at Oklahoma, he's going to produce and he's going to be a factor. I don't know if he's a 1,000 yard guy, but he could be a 600 yard guy. Um,
Yeah.
Despite all that, it feels like there are too many hurdles that are going to have to get cleared.
Yeah.
And so
There's going
that's
to be a
why
lot.
I'm a little bit skeptical. Well, more than a little bit. I am skeptical of all of it coming together. Even so, one can hope, and I do hope this works out because, and not for Oklahoma's sake. I'm not trying to be a homer here, but I hope it works out because it would be a really, really cool redemption story for the kid. And it would be something that I think everybody could feel good about. A guy getting a second chance and making the most of it because he's had to keep it on the straight and narrow. He's had to
Yep.
walk a long and lonely road for 4 years now. 4 years. He's had, I mean, because he's been down to his last strike. Something like that happens. You are down to your last strike. You toe the line one more time, it's over for you.
Yep.
And he has kept it on track for 4 years. And now he's going to get the opportunity to go play FBS football somewhere, whether that's Oklahoma or elsewhere. And I'm glad for that. I'm glad to see somebody making the most of their second chance.
I, he's done a really good job. Utah obviously they tried to get him on campus and they tried to make it work. It didn't. At that point in time, though, there was some legality issues that just didn't allow it. But all of those things have now cleared up. And I think that is kind of the underlying, you know, issue there. I'm interested to see who goes after him via the portal because there's going to be somebody that's going to take a chance on him,
Oh, yeah, there will be.
and it'll probably be a pretty good team. So we'll
I would
see.
say you can probably count on numerous teams taking a shot on Trajan Bridges. Because now it's not really a question. If we're talking 1 year down the road, we're talking even 2 years down the road, you do kind of worry, okay, has he completely shaken his past? Has he completely dissociated from what he used to be? Or are we going to have to worry about him getting into trouble? 4 years removed from the scrape with the law, you don't
Hmm.
really have that concern anymore.
No, I mean he's done a lot of things to prove that he is moved on, become a mature adult, and to me, and I know there's going to be a lot of people out there that disagree with this, but that's fine. But everything that he's gone through, would that not be just like the perfect person to sit there and be a leader inside that wide receiver room?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it would be, I think, a one man microcosm of everything that the soul mission is about, right?
Hmm.
Like that's why you have the soul mission for cases like this, so that and you don't have to rehabilitate Trajan Bridges. He's been doing that for 4 years on his own with the people in his circle. But you can step out there and say, "Hey, look, we believe that we have the requisite support system here in Norman, and we don't believe like it's objectively true that we have the requisite support system here in Norman to make sure that this kid is given every opportunity to flourish on and off the field and to make the most of a situation and a career that he himself jeopardized of his own volition. But in the
Yeah.
years since, in the time that's passed since, there's been a recognizance of that. There's been an understanding that I can't screw up again or it's over for me. And that's why this program, that's why this umbrella of the Soul Mission exists at Oklahoma, so that we can one day tout success stories like this. And it would be a tremendous success story. I don't even think Trajan Bridges would have to pop off
Yeah.
statistically in an Oklahoma uniform for this just to be a really cool success story for both Trajan and Oklahoma if there were
Yeah.
to be a reunion there.
Can I throw something out there to you? And it's
Sure,
been brought up in the chat. They gave Joe Mixon a second chance. Why can
they
they not
did.
give?
Yeah, it's a great point.
It's a valid point. So I don't know. Like, it is what it is. Um, But they got to at least how many wide receivers do you think they need to get?
One. I've been told they
One.
have one spot.
Yep.
They can take one transfer wide receiver, and that's what they're going to do.
Do we know how big is Terrell Davis?
He is 6 feet tall.
And see, from what I've been told, they want somebody about like Trajan, who is about 6'1", 6'2", 200 pounds.
Trajan is 6'2", is he? I don't even know if I can
Six
give him
one
6'1".
ish. Yeah, he's about no, they have him listed at 6'1", 195, so or 190, something like that. So I was just saying that he fits the narrative of a Giovanni Gibson type, is what they're looking for.
There you go.
So that's going to be interesting to see. That may just throw Davis completely out of the mix, right? Like just from size alone. But 6 foot is that's a decent size wide receiver. I mean, it's not small. It's
Hmm.
not big, but it's not small either. I mean, because a lot of people would think that CeeDee Lamb is big, right? CeeDee Lamb looked you and I in the eye, but he looks huge on the football field. So, like,
I don't know if I was looking CD Lamb in the eye.
he's about 6'2".
Yeah, he is. He is six. He's listed at 6'2".
Yeah. So maybe like an inch taller than us. So, I mean, like, that's my point is like it looks much bigger than he actually is. So I don't know. And he would have been classified as a bigger wide receiver, right? During his time.
Certainly.
So, I mean, that's what they need. They need a
Oklahoma
bigger
didn't have a
guy.
whole lot of trees in those days.
They did not. That's probably why he looks so big too,
Hmm.
because he was quite a bit larger than
In
Hollywood
comparison
Brown.
to the
Yeah,
Hollywoods and Charleston Rambos
correct.
of the
Well,
world.
Charleston was how tall was he?
He was like 5'11".
Really?
Yeah, he
I'd
wasn't
always
that
think that
big.
he was taller than that. Probably because he was so skinny. So I don't know. Jeffrey Mead was the one I always thought of when it came to like the taller guys that
Yes,
actually
he was
produced
a
on the field.
tree, but he never did a whole lot of anything
He's
from a
doing a lot
production.
now.
He is doing a
So
lot now.
yeah.
I see him on my Twitter feed all the time,
Yeah, me too, man.
making it
Elon
work.
Musk retweeting the crap out of him. So, um, as far as just Giovanni Gibson goes, kind of walk. You were the one that broke this story, so
Yeah.
walk everybody through that.
Yeah, well, I look, it's easy right now to look at the mounting injuries in the wide receiver room and want to point the finger at the I don't know that the groundskeeping crew, the medical staff, the coaching staff. Feels like everybody has a theory as to why all of these injuries are happening. But
Right.
if we're talking specifics on Giovanni Gibson's injury, he had somebody roll up on his lower leg. It's just something that happens when you play football, right? Those things happen. And it's not anybody's fault. They were in a live practice period, as I understand, going 11 on 11, and just one of those casualties of playing a contact sport. It's the risk you run. It's unfortunate that it had to happen to a guy that was early on trending towards being wide receiver one in the Oklahoma offense, but nothing you can do about it but just move on and hope you have the pieces in place to fill the void. And man, the guy that I look at as somebody that is poised to potentially step into a much more significant role, if indeed Giovanni Gibson is on the shelf for the first half, 2/3 of the 2025 season, it's Elijah Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
This has the potential to be a boon for Elijah Thomas.
What do you think Manny Choice will have any? You think he'll be as big of a player as a lot of people hope that he becomes?
Physically, I would say he and Zion Kearney are the two that are most similar to Giovanni Gibson. And we've heard good things about Choice, certainly. And he's had an ankle that's been dinged up, so he hasn't necessarily been 100% all the time throughout spring, but he's done a lot of great things. If you see him out there, man, he looks like a specimen. He does not look like a true freshman. He looks like a guy that's been in a collegiate strength and conditioning program for a couple years. I mean, he's big, he's built. That physique is well defined, 6'4", 215 pounds. So, boy, you talk about a guy that looks the part. Manny Choice certainly does. Um, I just, it's hard to tell whether he's as ready as
Mhm.
Elijah Thomas is. Because, and I'll say this, man, I took a lot. We did not get very much time in the open practice session earlier today, but I took a lot more time to just intentionally get my eyes on the cornerbacks and watch them as they go through drills and individual work, all that type of stuff. When a guy's moving different, it's not hard to spot. And man,
Yeah.
Cortland Guillory is moving different. He's gonna be good. All of the good things you've heard about Cortland Guillory, there's a reason you've heard them. I think in Guillory and in Elijah Thomas, Oklahoma has two certified dudes that are going to help them this year.
So, so you're under the impression that Cortland Guillory and Malik Hawkins will be the two guys in the secondary, the cornerbacks that do you think they both play?
I think Guillory would probably play more than Hawkins, although I like Hawkins is in a little bit of a different spot than Guillory in more ways than one. Like he's not playing outside corner primarily right now. He's repping at the nickel. He's repping at the cheetah. They've even tried him out at safety. So he's doing a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that type of versatility, I mean, you saw it last year with Jaden Hardy, right? That enabled Jaden Hardy to crack the rotation midseason. And so I think you'll see Malik Hawkins on the field, but if we're talking sheer snap count, Cortland Guillory will probably eat the most of the true freshmen across the board in the secondary. And certainly at cornerback, he is the one guy of those three true freshmen, and him, Hawkins, and Tristan Haynes, that I think is going to see substantial action.
We got to talk to Michael Fasusi today, and I think we both agree that he's going to get significant playing time during the season at some point. Don't know if it's going to be early, but we both believe that he's going to eventually be in the rotation. He talked about Troy Everett a
Mm-hmm.
lot and his leadership. And that's something that we have discussed a lot is how different he makes Troy Everett. I'm talking about makes that offensive line room because of his leadership. I'm very, very, very interested to see how this whole offensive line progresses, what they add during the portal. And I think we're going to know probably by Michigan what they are. Like week 2, I think is going to be kind of the deciding factor of what this team is going to actually be. Would you agree with that?
I would. We'll know what we need to know, I would think, from
Mm-hmm.
the Michigan game. We won't know it all, but at least at that point, we'll have a reliable indicator. Because I think it's fair to say non-conference play has showed you, like historically speaking, throughout the Venables era, non-conference play has showed you what you can expect from Oklahoma the rest of the way. In 2022, that's probably the one year where we were maybe thrown a little bit of a pump fake, but there were red flags. There were red flags when they were down 3-0 1 minute before halftime against Kent State. Right? There were that entire game was a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
And so that set you up for what was going to be kind of a hot and cold, unpredictable 2022 season. That's kind of what it was. 2023, you knew in non-conference play that that team was going to be significantly better and that they were going to once again be a contender in the Big 12 and could knock on the door of a college football playoff berth. 2024, man, it was a relatively nondescript non-conference slate. But even so, in those games, once again, you saw some vulnerabilities that even if they didn't culminate in losses, Oklahoma did go 3-0 in
Yeah,
non-con.
they did.
Even if they didn't culminate in losses, they still left you very, very apprehensive about the remainder of the campaign.
Mm-hmm. No, I would agree with that. They didn't look good, and I think that's what you're looking for, right?
Yeah.
Is can they look decent? And there was nobody that remotely came close to a Michigan that they had on the non-con last year. Zero, zero teams. That's where I get this like, yeah, there's a lot of positives going on, but those positives need to be met with some trepidation, met with, hands off, because let's wait and see what they do versus Michigan. Because if they do really well versus Michigan, I think this team's going to surprise some people. And we asked Fasusi, we asked Taylor Wine, just that, what the difference was. We asked Jaden Hardy what the difference was between last year and this year, and they kept bringing up the attitude, the intensity, the the energy that the new staffers and the new players have brought in. It almost felt like, and it was an unfortunate timing, Parker, that Oklahoma went into the SEC last year. And yeah, the injuries played a lot into that, right? Like everything that went down. But it felt like they still needed a reset. And I think that's, hindsight 2020. We didn't know that at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But now looking back at it, everything that they're talking about, it felt like they needed a reset. How much do you buy into that reset? And how much do you buy into this team being what they need to be, or even living up to the proverbial hype that has come with the spring success between the
Well,
two?
I just think so much of it is contingent upon the play of John Mateer. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, Oklahoma's going to go as John Mateer goes in
Right.
2025. Because and there are two ways to look at all of these injuries at the wide receiver position, right? You can look at it as, okay, it's not that big a deal because Mateer is going to elevate that receiving core, or you can look at it as, boy, it's going to be exactly the opposite in terms of the trickle down effect. They're going to drag Mateer down because you're not going to have your A1 guys available and healthy. And we've talked a lot about the receivers, but there's still some major question marks at tight end, right? Devon Mitchell no longer on the roster, and so
Mm.
he wasn't really knocking on the door playing time anyway. But even so, at this point, you don't really know what you have at wide receiver until you see it, and you don't really know what you have at tight end until you see it. And the one thing that you feel like you can count on that you didn't have in 2024 is adequate protection up front from that offensive line. You fully expect, and I think reasonably expect, that offensive line is going to be significantly better.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It feels like it. I think it's going to be fun for the fans to see that during the, what is it called? The Crimson,
Crimson
what?
Combine?
Yeah, Crimson Combine this weekend. Like, I think the one-on-ones will be very cool to see. I don't know how hard do you think they're actually going to go? I think it's the biggest question.
Man, I have no idea what to expect showing up to the Crimson Combine.
Yeah.
I, it's a brand new experience for all of us. It feels very thrown together on the university's part. I hope I'm wrong on that. I hope there's been a lot of forethought and a lot of very intentional planning that's gone into it, but kind of just feels like a spur of the moment jamboree kind of thing and more fun than insightful. More for
Mhm.
enjoyment than a glimpse at what you're actually going to be dealing with and how competitive you can expect the team to be in 2025. By the way, we did get our first super chat from Mongo, who said burn some sage in the wide receiver room. Shout out to Buford Halton. And he gave us $10. Thanks,
Appreciate
Mongo.
you, Mongo. Thank you. I mean, recruiting wise, what do you think the biggest story is right now?
The biggest story, I mean, it's probably got to be the fact that you got Deuce Geralds back on campus this past weekend, right?
That is true. They
Like,
did.
and there are other big name guys that have visited campus recently or are on campus right now, like Carter Scruggs, right? National top 200 player, one of the best offensive tackle prospects in the country in the 26 class. He's on campus right now for what is going to be a 3-day visit.
Mm-hmm.
Cooper Hackett, right? Cooper Hackett was at Oklahoma twice in the span of 5 days. At this
Jordan
point,
Davis was there today.
yeah, Jordan Davis, the homeschool safety from the Dallas area. Man, Deuce Geralds, though, especially because of the position that he plays, number 36 overall player in the
Yep.
Rivals 250 in the class of 2026. But he's one of the absolute best defensive tackles in the nation, a guy that's been a high priority at Oklahoma for quite a while. And it's always a good sign when the guys keep showing up, right, Brandon?
This
Like
is
that doesn't
very
tell you
true.
everything. I don't
Mhm.
think we'd get out over our skis and suggest that Oklahoma is the leader in the clubhouse for Deuce Geralds, but that shows you they're in the fight in a very real way.
They are, and I think it surprisingly. I think the top two teams aren't. They're not even close to Georgia. Like it doesn't even make sense. Like you would think Georgia would be where his mind would be. One, they haven't offered, which is weird, right? Like I think it's weird, but maybe they have because I remember talking to the Georgia, what's his name, that runs a Georgia site for rifles.
Roddy Nabulsi.
Yeah, Roddy Nabulsi. So I was talking to him at the Rivals 5-Star Challenge last year in Jacksonville, Florida. And he told me straight up, he said, look, Deuce has made it very clear. Georgia can offer now. They have zero chance to get him. Zero chance. They waited too long. So maybe they have offered. It was just too late. Too late. Oklahoma, Todd Bates has been on him forever. Ohio State, Larry Johnson, been on him forever. Those two seem to be pushing the hardest. He keeps showing up the most. Now, Michigan's in there, which makes it three that seem like they're the furthest away, but he keeps showing up to those the most.
Mm-hmm.
Auburn, he's an Ole Miss legacy, so they're going to always be in play. But at the end of the day, what he loves about Oklahoma is the relationship with Todd Bates in the scheme and how they use the defensive tackles. And I, from just talking to him a little bit and talking to people around that know that recruitment, and he doesn't say a whole lot. Deuce is not a very talkative human being. He's a
Mm-hmm.
nice kid, lovely kid,
Yeah.
but those around him feel like it make it feel like you know everybody wants to talk about Ohio State, Ohio State, Ohio State, and yeah, maybe they are the leader. But if Oklahoma can keep at it, you get him on campus for an official visit. This thing is anybody's game. It just is. We've seen this before, Parker. Oklahoma can't land this or that, and they did. So he may end up Ohio State, but you still have Valdon Stone, right? You still got Taj Overton, right? We were talking about this after the media stuff today. Like, regardless of how this thing plays out, if Oklahoma can land two of those three, you're cooking with some grease.
Big time.
Yep,
Big
big
time.
time. So yeah, I think that's probably. And Andrew K. Parsley, thank you so much for the super chat. Yeah, Valdon
Timely
Stone,
one, too.
very very timely. Yeah, look, Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma leads for Valdon Stone, and that's not a biased opinion either. That seems to be the consensus. Is that Oklahoma? He already came back to multiple spring practices. He came back. I think it was like in a 3-week span. He visited OU twice for junior days. So like he's been to Oklahoma like 6 times in the last year. He has an official visit set up. It went from he's probably going to announce in the fall So now it sounds like it's going to be closer to like June, July, August for a decision. So um, we'll see how this plays out, but I like Oklahoma's chances a lot. Like I think Oklahoma has a really, really good chance to get Valdenstone.
He
What
seems to fit,
go
doesn't
ahead.
he?
He does. He fits everything about
Yeah.
Oklahoma. Everything. Hard worker. Um, just I don't know, he's not a me guy. Like everything about Valden is very team oriented and about the process. And he's worked very, very hard to get where he's at. Very hard.
When
Because
are
he's
we going to
not
see another commit, Brandon? I was thinking about this the other day. In the last 8 months, 8 months, four total commits for Oklahoma. Any class, any and all classes across the board, four commits in the last 8 months. Michael Fasusi, Jet New, Will Conroy, Daniel Odom. That's it.
I don't know. I really don't know. I wish I did. Like I really, really wish that I did. It's it's been I'm sure if you're an Oklahoma fan, it's probably been pretty frustrating, right? To not have a commitment. What was it, January? Or was it mid
January
February?
was Daniel. Yeah, Daniel Odom committed on the 28th of January. That's the most recent addition for Oklahoma to the class.
It's a long time, man. It's almost
It's
been
a
three
drought
months.
that we're not
Yeah.
really accustomed to, right? And
Yeah.
again, when you consider that there's been a bit of a prolonged drought, not a total drought, but like four commits in 8 months. There are very few Power Four programs that go that long with that few commits in that window.
Mm.
It feels like the
2023 was
avalanche
like
is
that,
coming.
right?
2024, the early stages of the 2024 class, because it wasn't until Jeremiah Newcomb committed in late March that Oklahoma had their first edition of the 2024 cycle. But then, of course, they started rolling. You had Michael
Right.
Hawkins in April. You had Zion Kearney in April. You had I think KJ Daniels was in April too. Um, Jaden Hardy committed. Isaiah Autry committed there right around the time of the spring game, and so they started dropping in pretty rapid succession after that.
And I think that will happen this time around. It feels like it will. You get the official visit starting, and it feels like May, June, July should be where a lot of the commits. It, it feels like a lot of the commits will take place then, right? That's normally what we see. I'm interested to see with Jim Nagy how much they take as far as high school goes, or is he going to be more of a portal guy?
We really don't know at this point, do we? I mean,
Mm-mm.
just kind of speculating, but I would think Nagy probably goes a little bit lighter than we have seen most years in the past. Like I would say a fair ballpark would be what, 20 guys most cycle or most
Mm-hmm.
cycles. I don't think you're going to see real scarcity in the class like you kind of did this last year out of necessity because of the scholarship situation, or in the
Right.
2021 cycle when you were dealing with COVID, right? They took 16 in 2021, they took 18 this past year. But then, on the other end of the spectrum, you had 28 takes in the 2024 class. Feels like on that spectrum, Nagy is going to lean towards the lighter end. I feel like 20 to 22 every single year is probably where he's going to want to land and then fill the holes in the portal.
Hmm.
I don't know. That's just my read on the situation. We'll know before too long what Oklahoma is actually going to try to accomplish and try to pull off in the 26 cycle as far as numbers.
So, if you were to guess, what would you think that would be?
20 to 22.
Like that's what you think, 2022. What about like we're not? I guess what I'm getting at is how many do you think they're going to take this spring as well, like through the portal? I think four different guys. Like I think four is probably the good number, right? And we expect some attrition as well, naturally. Like if you were going to guess position that, and it's crazy to think, right? Like where wide receivers at as far as just injuries, right? But
Hmm.
at the same time, it feels like there might be some attrition in that room as well this spring, right?
Hmm.
If you were to guess. Um,
I think, and I've kind of intoned this before, but I think there'll probably be a couple of portal departures at the end of the spring that surprise the casual fan. I
way
mean,
to
I can say his name now. I thought Devon Mitchell was going to be one of those, you know? Like Devon Mitchell felt like a guy who's the hourglass was running short on his OU career, whether it was his call or somebody else's call. It felt like he was going to be one of those guys at the end of the spring that Nagy called into the office and served the walking papers to. But, he decided to leave of his own volition, of his own accord. More power to him. I think there could be a couple others that to the casual OU football fan will probably be a little bit surprising.
way to leave a like you're just like dangling
I mean,
that out
yeah,
there
I'm not
for
gonna I'm not gonna say names,
I know,
like
I know you're not, but he's just like dangled that out there for him. Hey, guess what? All right, let's talk a little basketball though, because you got to give him their props. Porter Moser's killing it, man. Like he's killing it. Which get do you think is the bigger get in the grand scheme of things?
I I would probably say Tay Davis just because I value interior play more than guard play because it's not that I think guard play is unimportant. It's obviously very important. But the one thing that Oklahoma has very conspicuously lacked throughout the Porter Moser era is a dominant presence on the interior. And I don't know that Tay Davis is the big that you want to build your roster around. I still feel like Oklahoma needs a true center, but at that power forward position, man, Tay Davis is going to be a force. I believe that. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what to expect from Nigel Pack.
Yeah, Pack is. Yeah,
It's like he can really shoot the rock. We know that about him. Is he going to be I wonder how much success he's going to have. Like, is he going to be the primary ball handler, or is Dayton Forsyth going to be the primary ball handler? How much success is Pat going to have when it comes to creating his own shot? Because that was one thing that Jeremiah Fears could do very, very well. If you're going to if you're going to run point for an offense like Porter Moser's, you got to be able to create your own shot, right? And so, it's not to say like I'm skeptical of whether Pack will be a valuable addition. I certainly believe he will be, but I don't know if he's like a 17 points per game type guy like Fears was this past year.
right.
I do think Tay Davis can be everything Jalen Moore was at Oklahoma. And so if in effect you get to recreate Jalen Moore for another year at Oklahoma, that's one less glaring question mark.
Mm-hmm.
To me, as long as you buttress that starting five with a true center via the portal. I saw Darian Williams from Texas Tech hit the portal a couple days ago. Somebody like that, right? If you can go land a big, pair him down low with Tay Davis, and then in the backcourt, you have Dayton Forsyth and you have Nigel Pack and you have a very athletic swingman and Jeff Wonkwo and a 3-and-D guy and Jadon Jones and cool attack coming off the red shirt, ready to make his presence felt. And then Mo Wiggy providing depth in the front court there. There's a lot to like with that squad. That feels like a tournament team to me.
Right. I so want Cool Attack to be just a superstar. Want it so badly. That name is that That's the coolest name in college basketball. Barn, not even close. Cool attack. Like, come on. It's the coolest name in college basketball. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and shoot them out there to us. We'll try to get to some before we get off here. We only got a few more minutes that we're going to go here. Look, if there was two players on this current OU football team right now that you think fans need to get acquainted with because you think they're going to surprise the crap out of everybody, who would those two be? One offense, one defense.
My freshman man crushes, man. Elijah Thomas and Cortland Guillory. I think both those
I
guys,
almost told you no freshman.
I
Just
mean, and I can play that game if you want to go no freshman, but
mhm.
to me, like those are two very obvious. I don't know if you would call them positions of need, but there's certainly positions where you need somebody to step up. And Elijah Thomas is going to have that opportunity at wide receiver. Cortland Guillory is going to have that opportunity at cornerback because it's not just about their skills, right? It's about the necessity of an additional contributor at
Right.
those positions. There's a very natural window there for both Guillory and Thomas to actually make a productive dent. They're not going to have to force their way onto the field,
Mhm.
right? The conversation we were having last spring about Eli Bowen, for instance, was, man, he's really, really good, but he's probably going to have to force his way on the field if everybody stays healthy at cornerback. Now,
Right.
Gentry Williams did get hurt, but even once Gentry Williams got hurt, it was very much a case of Bowen forcing his way onto the field. I don't even know that Cortland Guillory is going to have to do that this year. I think he'll be in the rotation from the jump. I don't know how many snaps that equates to, but I think he's a guy that Jay Valai will have confidence enough to lean on early in the season. I think the same is true of Elijah Thomas. I don't know that he's going to have to do what Marvin Mims did in 2020 and catch a 60-yard touchdown in his very first collegiate game to really make his presence felt in that receiver room and elbow his way into some additional snaps and some additional targets. I think
Mhm.
he's going to be heavy in the mix right off the rip.
Yeah. I'm going to go Taylor Wine on defense just because everybody's been talking about him. He's been one of the main guys that no matter what source you talk to says, oh, that guy's doing really well. He's playing well. He's making plays. He's getting sacks. He's getting tackles, TFLs, right? Like it feels like there is a surge with his play. And he admitted today that he leans a lot on Ethan Downs. Not a bad guy to lean on.
No.
So with Ethan Downs around the program at every practice with the defensive ends, um, and the relationship that he has with Coach Chavis, I think that he's going to have a decent year. The other guy on offense that I feel will have a bigger year than most people expect is Will Huggins. He's been the other guy at tight end. Outside of Jaron Canick, it's been a Will Huggins show.
So you're drinking the Huggins Kool-Aid?
I'm not drinking the Huggins Kool-Aid. They don't have a choice.
I guess that's true.
They don't have a choice. It's either throw to Canick and Huggins or don't use the tight end at all. Unless you get one out of the portal. So that unfortunate, but and I see people saying like Sooners Cowboys, mine Stone and Fasusi. Stone would have been mine if it wasn't just such an obvious pick. And I wasn't going to look for an obvious pick. The same thing with Fasusi. I just thought those were two obvious picks.
Mm-hmm.
Too easy. I want something that the fans don't realize could potentially make a guy that could make a big play this year, or 3 or 4 or 5, that could change a ball game that you didn't expect. And I really feel Wine and Huggins could be those guys at some point during the season. I'm not saying they're going to have like these All American games. I'm talking like a tackle for loss or a sack in a big moment that you needed. A first down when nothing else is working, you find just a random Will Huggins going down on a seam route. First down. Keep that drive going in a moment where Oklahoma didn't look like they have anything going offensively, and that changed the dynamic of the game. Like those are the things I'm talking about. But yeah, I get it. Like Stone, Fasusi. I mean, you got a lot of people. Guillory was one. I, there's another one that I think nobody talks about anymore, and he is so critical to the secondary for OU. Gentry Williams. He's an SEC corner at its core. He is now about 6'1", 195. He's a bigger guy now. He seems healthy. He's playing. We're hearing good things about him. And I talked to somebody the other day, Parker, that said, look, if Gentry doesn't play, the secondary could be, the corners could be having an issue. Because now you're relying on freshmen, people that haven't played. You need Eli, Bowen, and you need Gentry to be healthy. Agree? I think that's kind of undisputable, right?
And you want to, you want to hope that there's a quantum leap coming for Jacoby Johnson, which is on the table, right?
Yeah, I think he's going to have a good year. Yep. He's not going to be flipping back and forth.
But there's a reason why Oklahoma is going to be in the market for another cornerback from the portal window. Because as we've learned over the years, you can never have too much depth because kind of the common thread throughout the first 3 years of the Brent Venables era was when you saw Kanai Walker on the field, you kind of just started poking yourself in the eye. Yep, there it is.
We knew he was going to get beat deep.
There it is. There's Oklahoma's lack of cornerback depth rearing its head.
Oh my God, that was like painful to watch. Him and Des Malone last year looked like they had freaking cinder blocks on their feet. And they were like, then you watch Des Malone run, and you're like, oh, yep, I get it. When he ran his 40, there it is. That's why he got beat
like
a
4.83 or something.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, man. The terrible.
That's why Auburn burnt him 3 times in a row. That's why he looked like he had a crick in his neck every time he played somebody with speed.
Yeah. Cam Coleman baptized that dude.
He did. I still go back to whenever I was a kid, or not even a kid. I was in college, and and Eric Bassey turned out to be a really good player. But I always call him Eric Burn Me Deep Bassey and Lewis Burn Me Deep Baker. So and they both ended up being good players, mind you. So but they had rough seasons to start. And it just felt like those guys were never going to have the seasons that Bassey and Baker ended up having later on in their career. So anyways. All right. I think that's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live. Powered by Riverwood Casino. If you're not a member of OU Insider, go over there, $9.95 a month, $99.95 for the whole year. Give us a try. You can try us for 1 month, $99.95. It is worth it. I promise you. I promise you. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of OU fans over there right now. I've got a VIP chat going. You ask me questions. I answer it. I answered like 15 yesterday. I'm going to answer probably 20 more tonight, and then probably 20 more the next day. So we try to get to 100 different comments in those threads. Parker answers questions. We have more on the Trajan Bridges situation if you want to go over there and check. More on the wide receiver situation if you want to go over there and check. More on a variety of recruiting topics, a variety of team notes. We're going to have more and more team notes before this weekend rolls around. So, and these are VIP. This is stuff that We don't get to see. We have sources tell us what's going on, and we relay it to you. So, like all that's going on right now, 99.95 for the whole year, or just give it a try. 9.95 for a whole month. That's almost a what, dude? That's like paying for one Starbucks. Literally, I bought a Starbucks the other day and it was 8.35. So for $1.60 more, you can get OU Insider for a whole year and hang out with all the OU fans. Or if you're a college student and you have a .edu email, has to be a .edu email. Doesn't matter if it's Liberty University, doesn't matter if it's Timbuktu University, or as Kelvin Sampson said the other day, Sasquatch U. Um, doesn't matter. You have a .edu, you email us at ouinsider@rivals.com. We get back to you. You get OU Insider for $11.95 because we send you a promo code for that. Same with active duty military. You email us. Doesn't matter what branch you're from. Email us. We'll hook you up. Promise you. We will hook you up. ouinsider@rivals.com. Promo code, bam, you get us $11.95. Both those less than $1 a month. Subscribe to this YouTube, subscribe to whatever podcast platform you listen to us on. We can't thank you guys enough for what you guys do for us. And we love our jobs thanks to you guys. So for Parker Thune, for Spencer Forsythe, my name is Brandon Drumm. That's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live, powered by Riverwind Casino. You guys have a blessed day.